Greetings, ladies and merchants, and welcome to this latest narration of the web series There Is No Epic Loot Here, Only Puns. If you're new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 204, The Heart of a Giant. Delta watched as Nina, most of her, and Estelle seemed to be getting along like a house on fire, with innocents all round them fleeing in terror as the two complained about men, work, and other women, children, life, and hassles of death. The mood in the usually down-to-earth bar changed to something electric as the two ordered badass girl cocktails. Vera stared at them as she held pig livers and toxic flowers before shoving them into crystal decanters and began to blend them into something drinkable, with grumbles about needing dainty glasses. There was a strong urge to join them, like Delta was back in high school, and the popular girl table had open space, and she, the quiet, anxious teenage Delta, desperately wanted to be invited by them, but she resisted the urge to manifest. She was on a mission. Focusing, Delta looked over Estelle in an effort to find that elusive self-echo of a shape. But other than a faint flows of her manner at times, Estelle didn't have one. There was an odd crackle of darkness near her chest, but it was never around long enough to be anything other than a flicker. Estelle simply didn't have a shape. Delta supposed that would make sense if shapes were rare among people. If Estelle ever gets a shape, I fully expect them to manifest a god-killer high heels. Delta nodded to herself. Delta expected Nina to be the same way, honestly. However, when she peered at the nearest clone of the girl, she staggered back as immense pressure filled her mind, as the shape was like a sixth-dimensional puzzle left undone. Some parts having 6 connecting pieces, others only having 2, and a single clone who was eating a napkin having a single edge. The image was wild and connected to some very far-away pieces, with twists and the edge of her vision couldn't quite follow. Trying to peer at Nina's shape in its entirety was a headache-inducing, except for one part. A dark, almost burned missing section that should be between excited Nina, desiring Nina, and focused Nina. A black burned-out shape that looked not just gone, but ripped out harshly. It was like a black hole in an otherwise colorful picture, and in that void, something was staring back. As Delta turned her attention to it, it vanished into a maze of other pieces, moving into the darker and less used Nina's as camouflage. Delta lost track of it within seconds. If Delta wanted to find it and expose whatever it was, she would need every piece of Nina laid out in a line, every single piece being as folded as it could be. If she counted roughly, offhand, that was close to 300-ish Ninas existing at one time. Delta winced as the headache of the not-quite dungeon vision took a hard toll on her. It was even worse than overindulging in dungeon space. Still, any information Delta could grab on shapes and their power to fight the silence or empower it was worth a small headache. The more data and reference points she could locate or study would help her find Durance's shape, but also perhaps how to help her own monsters grow theirs without any issue. Okay, time for full scientific method on self-concepts and manifestation of it as a tool. Easy, she declared, and Farah shot her a look, and the gaze was filled with all sorts of questions. Delta just looked back with a total yes, and why not? In fact, Delta just thought of an excellent sample group. She turned and shot past the boss room down to the second floor, hovering over the area with her eyes closed as she tugged at certain strings to get the attention of their owners. Slowly, the group formed as Delta grinned at the frogs and Rennie as they arrived at the hot spring that Luna lovingly took care of. Seeing them together was staggering under her between vision due to the simple range of different shape developments they offer. Giant, the Bridge Guardian had little to no shape development, which seemed to be coming from the lack of personal growth and desire to change. Luna had some, but it seemed to be taking far longer than she was not defining herself simply as a frog, but as a location. Davina was quite developed, as her shape included spirits and birds, giving her some power in that area. But Delta could see that it hadn't hit that level where it formed an identity. Gramps the chief was like Giant, but she chalked that up to the fact that the old frog didn't like strangers and never left his cave, like a young teenager who found showering optional. But her eyes went wide when she fully took in Rail and Rennie, finding that they were on a whole different level.
Yes, sir, I've done my 3rd lap of the river just now.
Rail flexed as if thinking Dalton noticed a slight change in his muscular body, or noticed a single, more protruding vein here or there. Dalton's mouth dropped open as Rail's aura washed over her with that raging force of a river, but at the same time she felt a little safe, as if she had an inflatable ring around her hips. The feeling was that the river was not simply across the jungle in between two cliffs, flowing in one direction. What was literally standing before her was the shape of a frog. Rail was the source of life, protection, and progression. He was also easily prone to overflowing, taking back what he gave, and being utterly oblivious to those who desired him. His nature to always be on the move. It was also like opening her eyes in a chlorine pool, so she blinked away from Rail to Rennie, who was doodling in a notebook about skeleton clown formations, rattling tiger boxes, and high wires made of hair and sinew. He looked just like Remy to Delta's new vision, but all around him was a nightmare of grinning delights, a multi-handed muscular ghoul with its mouth perpetually wide open as it adjusted things that Delta still couldn't see, such as a motion to counter Rennie's leaning posture so that he could lean on thin air, or a constant small barrier that was smoothed down by 5 of its arms like a bubble, and a dozen more things Rennie had to be constantly aware of on some level. Running over Rennie's shape were dozens of chains, ropes, and even some prayer beads, stopping it from ever truly flexing itself. Oh, Delta mused as she saw the chains were turning orange. If this was some show, perhaps a very colorful show with strong animation, Delta might expect Rennie's shape to appear with a sudden title like Demonic Buddha of Unseen Underworld, or Say Nothing at All, or some other weird song title like that. She's all cross-eyed, Luna commented, and Davina shot her a look. Delta is seeing things beyond our knowing. She chided the other frog, and Delta had to quickly refocus her gaze so she stopped going cross-eyed and appeared wise. Apologies. I'm studying the source of your gifts and how you've developed them, she said, and tried to politely not look at Giant and Gramps, who looked curious. My muscular gift is plain to measure, Rail promised. Davina eyed him, and Delta only heard what she said because Delta was in the air they all breathed. Let me recount them for consistency's sake, she mumbled, and Delta shot her shamestic frog a scandalous look. It was then a wave of glistening water washed over Rail to give him a sheen. That was a direct shape usage. Do that again, she sort of demanded of Rail, who blinked, then looked sheepish. I don't make it happen on purpose. It sometimes wishes to glimmer like a star in the jungle, and I get wet, he explained, with a shrug, still dripping. Davina muttered something again, and Delta turned to her, face crimson. I can hear you, she cried, and the frog went very quiet, then vanished into the jungle at breakneck speed. Remy waved a hand. He looked at Delta, and a dozen things changed under his control. A nearby chair became lighter, 2 invisible barriers smoothed into place, and Rennie's bubble became ridged with spikes, and he looked to be holding something like a baseball bat. His control was insane. His shape flexed and bent, making it all happen without any indication of Rennie's side. But when he needed to trade speed for subtlety, he used his hands to match the shape, overlaying its ghostly form with his own, causing him to mime his actions. How are you doing that? Delta asked, leaning in closer with a curious expression. Luna looked around and immediately tripped over one of the invisible barriers, but she rolled it off with a grace and indifference. Rennie paused, then directed a memory of absolute darkness being bored out of his skull after burying all that he loved in a collapsed circus, flexing and using his talents to pluck worms out of the earth to sustain himself over the years. Are you sure you don't want me to make you a therapist? She asked, and Rennie shook his head. He turned his book around to show a little hat and a bow tie for Wilhelm, the massive gorilla, the only living member of Rennie's original circus. No therapy, only pet outfits, Delta said slowly. I have trauma. Can I get stuff? Luna asked brightly. Delta shot her a confused look. What trauma? She asked, looking at the happy frog monster. Luna lifted a little kimono she wore, showing a partially chewed pair of shoes. I don't know anything you'd let chew your shoes and not have you kick them right in the face, Delta admitted, a little confused. Silently, Luna pointed to a tree where a small form of Liar, the new floor guardian, watched them all in her silent, unblinking human form. The utterly creepy thing was the horde of pygmy mushrooms in the trees above her, chanting ominously at her presence. Lyra had no shape, so knew that she was barely showing any signs of development, but what baffled Delta was the pygmies. They had a shape, a singular shape between all of them. It looked like a golden woman with battle armor, with massive gambeson-like buttons, and a long silver snake coming down around her neck, and billowing swirls of smoke and mysterious movements. The face was covered with a sheen of light, making any features impossible to make out. As pygmies came together or split off, the figure grew firmer or lost cohesion. It was a bit shapely, with hips that could carry an army. It also had a huge butt for some reason. She tried to put into her menu and got the same sort of gibberish that Fran gave her. The mighty mother. Does she see us, hear us, love us? Would she die for us? The questions do not matter. We see, we hear, we love, we would. Hair to weave the glorious image, celebration to sanctify it, promises to sustain it. From us to our children, the mother is always. From us to our enemies, the mother is always. That feels vaguely like something I should address before someone's skin ends up in a tapestry, Delta muttered. The avatar turned and Delta jumped in surprise, as instead of a back, there was simply another shape. A dark blue figure with long claws made of bone, the shadows and darkness moving over it to hide most of it. But when skirmishes or fights broke out in the pygmies, it moved its weird claws, making them quiet down. It was watching them all with its moving 100 eyes, and Delta shivered as it grew stronger the more agitated the pygmies grew, despite its efforts to quiet them down. The cold shadow. He knows us. He sees us. He would use us. But we accept this, for all is for the mother. He tempts us to act on instinct, while the mother wants us to think, to act and to be beasts we are, or to rise above and be loved. We struggle, but it's a good struggle. We weave, or we hunt. We are shadows, or are we hunters? The moon smiles. Then again, at least I'm not a symbolic Lucifer in this tale, Delta decided, and turned away. She nearly jumped as Giant loomed over her. Mother, should I be gifted? He asked in a small voice that was at odds with his large frame. What do you mean? Delta asked, taking aback in surprise. Others made you look strange for a long time. I did not. They have something that makes you happy or curious. I do not. He summed up, and it was hard to argue with that. Delta really needed to work on her expressions when she was peering at concepts. It was worse than her poker face, which was already bad enough to circle back around to being a godly bluff. No one could predict Delta, even if Delta didn't know where the heck she was. It's not that, Giant. You do have potential. It's just not there yet, she said, patting his head. The gift of levitation was very good for head pats. How do I grow? He asked, trying to find a concrete answer to a problem Delta only figured out was a thing this very day. You need experiences. You need to define yourself against others, Delta said, thinking about it as Luna huffed. Stop living under a bridge, she translated to the giant frog, who turned thoughtful. I like my bridge. It has all my things, and I know where it begins and where it ends, he pointed out, and Luna shot him a look that clicked her tongue. It was a lot louder than humans due to the fact that frog tongues had more power to it. Just, don't grow or do things because you think you should. That might actually stunt your growth, Delta cautioned. But I just want to lay around and listen to the jungle, Giant admitted. Then why is this an issue? Luna grumbled, but Gramps finally spoke up. He's torn between comfort and the lust for growth, to be seen as important. Not everyone is handed a heartspring, the old frog reminded. He was handed a bridge, Luna protested. They argued, and it clicked. Luna had things to do around the spring, the secret garden with the herbs and mixers, her secret ninja training, and chatting with Wyam. It was multifaceted, so she would just need to do the same for Giant. Giant could be her case study, which sounded strange. Instead, Giant could be her first student. The word made her glow, literally, and Luna shielded her eyes. Help! Mum's going supernova again, she cried, and Delta couldn't help it. She was suddenly so excited. In the core room, the symbol of the mushroom on the core itself shifted, the mushroom stem becoming blocky with pockmarks and with hints of dust falling off. Then she just ups and goes. I don't need any of you. I'm the true Nina. Then she just teleports away with some doohickey, sassy Nina complained, and Estelle couldn't believe the audacity of Nina being so rude to Nina. Nina needed to be hard-slapped and dragged back to her by her hair, to Nina to apologize for giving Nina such trouble. Trust no one, not even yourself, Estelle stated, with a slur to her words. She looked down at the odd drinks she didn't order. It looked like a deep orange liquid that seemed fruity, woody, nutty, meaty, medicinal. What is this? She asked as Nina leaned away from it, as if the drink was a dangerous monster. Delta surprise, everyone gets one, the goblin bartender grunted. Why does it keep changing colours, consistency, and texture? She asked, confused. It's a surprise, and I'll headbutt you if you ask what kind of surprise, Vera warned, and stalked off. I like her when I'm not trying to dungeon this place. We need more straight-to-business bartenders, Estelle declared, and raised her glass. To the bartender, she declared. I'll smother you if you spill that drink, was the response. Estelle downed the whole thing in one go, and Nina gagged in a way one only could when they saw the liquor that almost killed them once. All at once, her toes and fingers began to tingle as she felt the room getting further away. No. Wait. She was floating. I am the queen of the sky lizards. Bow to me. Ninas, Ninai, plural of Nina, she declared, as the wonderful sensation of being loved and hugged surrounded her. This was what it felt like to get a hug from someone without ulterior motives. Estelle sort of hated it. Where did she stick that dagger of betrayal? Where was the contract almost signing her away as some wife of an inbred idiot? Where was the trick that came with this treat? She floated through the spiderweb, and court of spiders all raised their tiny glasses in toast as she passed. Oh no, I didn't bring my upper crust pants. Don't look at me, your lordships and ladies, she wailed as she covered her eyes from the fancy spiders. Sassy Nina watched as Estelle bumped into the roof and began to sob. Vera handed her a broom. Poke her to a corner before she runs into a candle, the goblin ordered. Got it covered, Nina said, and held up her hand, showing a string wrapped around her fingers that ended up around Estelle's foot. She got the string on as soon as Estelle began to float. That drink is a menace, she told Vera, who looked thoughtful. I think it's cathartic. I think it's trying to help you see how you think about your problems. Take Ice Cube up there. She needs a cry more, Vera said, and Nina raised her brow. How did splitting me into 100 copies help me? She asked sarcastically. Maybe you need to find out what's at the bottom of your barrel of monkeys. Maybe you're missing something you can only see when it's all put on the table. I don't know. I'm not paid to fix your problems. I'm barely paid to listen to you all complain. Vera huffed and walked off. Sassy raised her glass to Ernest and indicated that she needed another drink. Ernest, diligent and busy, were all working today, cleaning plates and sweeping the place. Sassy would drink for them. So elegant, Estelle continued to sob to a cobweb stuck to her face. Sassy liked Estelle, but this was going right into an ammunition bag when they got into another little spat. End of chapter. I would just quickly like to thank the T5 peeps. Dragon Soup, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Red Panda 121, Leslie 517, Bushmaster 177, Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Sans the Skeleton, Lightjock, Dragzoon WRE, and Lord Azrakal. Thank you very much.